Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Sally back there on the ones and twos. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Hope the kids got off to school, and it's just about fall. It means football's in the air, and we got a lot of it to talk about here over the next 2 hours. I was out at LSU football practice earlier this morning. Got to watch almost 2 hours of practice today, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Saints were on the field yesterday. Certainly want to dive into all of that, good and bad. We'll talk to Dr. Jeremy Burnham from Oxford coming up at 1:45. Probably going to talk some tendinitis with Dr. Burnham at the end of this hour. We'll meet the freshman, and Blake Baker spoke with the media earlier today. We'll get to some of that in our second hour as well. So lots and lots and lots to do over the course of the next couple of hours. Lock us in. Let's get rolling the way we do every day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
So when signing day rolls around for college football, you look at all the players that your favorite school signed. In this case, we're talking about LSU, obviously. And you start thinking about those skill sets and those talents, and you wonder, okay, what could this guy do? What impact could this guy have? And you're generally going to be on the optimistic side of that on signing day, right? Well, I want to talk about one guy, what I saw today, what I've really seen for 3 weeks, and what I expect to see this year relative to what we thought when he signed. It's Trey'Dez Green. Because today, I'm out at practice, and I'm watching Trey'Dez Green, and I'm going, this is the dude that everybody was talking about when he was a senior in high school. This is the dude who is going to be a significant problem for defenses to deal with, whether that's in the middle of the field, whether that's on third downs, and certainly whether or not that's in the red zone. Because Trey'Dez Green was everywhere today. And in this segment, where I generally just talk about everything I saw at practice, I'm just going to talk about what I saw from Trey'Dez Green at practice. Because it wasn't like, oh, there's that one highlight reel catch. It was consistent dominance over the course of an hour and 20 minutes when we were out there. It started in the indoor. LSU was running on an 11-man defense. And keep in mind, nobody's got shoulder pads on. Nobody's got leg pads on. This was just a helmet practice day. But they're running down in the red zone, and Trey'Dez Green runs kind of a slant in-breaking route with the line of scrimmage right about the 10-yard line. And Harold Perkins is covering him. And Garrett Nussmeier throws the ball towards the goalpost, and it kind of looks like it's going to be wide and be incomplete. And the best way I know to describe it, maybe it's because I've got a 3-year-old at home, maybe it's because I'm channeling my 5-year-old self. The best way I know to describe this catch was Trey'Dez Green went go-go gadget arms, and his arms went like an hour and a half forward and caught the ball. And as I watched this play, which was a rare like highlight reel play in practice that we see. We don't see a ton of those. I'm thinking to myself, okay, I've got the roster in front of me, and Harold Perkins is listed at 6'1", 220, and he's as good an athlete as there is on defense in college football. And he's one of the guys, that type of player that another team would theoretically put on Trey'Dez Green. He's a tight end, so maybe a linebacker could cover him or be asked to do that, right? And in this case, a freakish athlete at linebacker is running stride for stride with Trey'Dez Green. Harold Perkins can run with Trey'Dez Green, no problem. Stride for stride, right there in the end zone. But Nussmeier puts the ball out beyond where Harold Perkins can reach. He's limited in what he could do there at 6'1". But Trey'Dez Green is 6'7", and his arms are twice as long as Harold Perkins. So while they're running stride for stride, he just reaches up and grabs it. I don't know what you're supposed to do if you're Harold Perkins in that situation except be 2 steps in front of him. And that's exactly the point that we make when we talk about Trey'Dez Green, saying like they just don't have anyone on that side of the ball, meaning the defense, with a skill set even close to Trey'Dez Green. No one that is 6'7" plays defense unless they're on the edge, and generally speaking, that doesn't even happen either. So you don't have anybody his size. Well, you can try to out-physical him, and that's generally going to come from a linebacker, but Trey'Dez Green is 240 pounds. And there comes a point in time in the route when he gets beyond the line of scrimmage where you can't be that physical with him, or it's a penalty. So now you have to line up and just be as good an athlete of him. And no one on the defense is as good an athlete as Trey'Dez Green. And this is one catch I'm talking about, but it continued. He went outside, literally, not outside in the formation, literally outside for practice, and we got into some red zone periods and got into some 11-on-11s and some 2 minutes. And he's just making catches like down the sideline where I'm just not sure what the defensive back's supposed to do. The only time I charted a Trey'Dez Green incompletion today with the defense out there, DJ Pickett was on him. And that's really the only shot you've got because LSU happens to have the only 6'5" corner I know of in college football. There's probably another one.
I was going to say, DJ Pickett's the only guy that would really have a chance against him.
He's 6'5", 195, and Pickett did force an incompletion. I'm pretty confident there would have been a pass interference flag thrown, but I'm glad Pickett was in there mixing it up with him, but still. And I go back to last week. I'm out there at practice, and as the offense is going, I'm on the right sideline. And Garrett Nussmeier takes a snap at 7-on-7. He pulls to the right, throws it out towards the right sideline towards me. And I realize how high it is because it's like in my general direction. And my neck kind of cranes upward to look, and there goes Trey'Dez just flying through the air and catches it on the sideline.
Hunt, this was credit to T-Pal in the chat. You missed a perfect opportunity for a Space Jam reference with Michael Jordan's arm stretching out.
Would have been very good. Similar thing. I've watched that 437 times. Not sure how I don't get to that.
Yeah.
But I went Inspector Gadget. Either way, freakish is the way you would describe Trey'Dez Green at this point. And Bauer Sharp is playing well. He had a nice diving catch today. We talked to Joe Sloan back on Friday about Bauer Sharp, talked about his physicality at the line of scrimmage and the edge that he brings to practice each and every day. But what you're seeing with Trey'Dez Green, who, by the way, was a basketball player until about 4 years ago. What you're seeing now is a guy who's starting to understand how to get off the line of scrimmage, starting to understand how to run routes, and now Garrett Nussmeier is figuring out where to put the ball to get it to him. And that's a different place than you would put the ball to throw it to Aaron Anderson. It's a different place than you would throw it to Xavion Thomas. It's a different place than you would throw it to Berrien Brown. The catch radius here is way different than everybody else in that pass catching group. And Nussmeier's starting to figure that out. And it's something that you would have immediately said when LSU got him signed. You're going, oh, this dude's a basketball player who's 6'7". Like, wow, he's going to be really difficult to deal with. And last year, like, in the first home game, LSU threw Trey'Dez Green a touchdown pass. He caught one against Ole Miss over the middle. And then you saw him catch two in the bowl game. One was a nice catch in the back of the end zone where Nussmeier threw it high. One was just a wide open throwback screen. But this is going to be a problem for defenses. They can't just treat Trey'Dez Green like a normal tight end. They can't treat him like a normal slot receiver because you have to realize that the guy that you've put on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage from Trey'Dez Green is at a significant matchup disadvantage no matter who it is in all of college football. And that just stuck out to me today as I was watching him make plays. Now, again, it's not 11-on-11 tackling. No one's got shoulder pads on, and I realize that can be somewhat of just an athletic competition, kind of like a combine, when you take a little bit of the physicality out of the game. And physicality is the one thing that Trey'Dez Green's going to have to learn. He can always be tall, run, and jump, and physicality is something he's got to learn and got to get better at. But he is, and he's put on weight since he got to campus. And now that Mason Taylor has moved on, keep in mind, Mason Taylor played triple, quadruple almost the snaps that Trey'Dez Green played last year for good reason. Mason Taylor's an awesome player, most productive tight end in school history. I'm not suggesting they should have taken Mason Taylor off the field. What I am suggesting is that he didn't get thrust into action last year, and now he's a year older, a year more mature, a year with more understanding of how to play the position. He's got a new position coach in Alex Atkins, and I think you're going to see an explosion this year from Trey'Dez Green. Explosion. I think he can catch 10 or 12 touchdowns. I don't think that's ridiculous. Because of what I watched today, what I saw last week, and the amount of snaps he figures to get. I don't think he's going to go for 950 yards, but I think he's going to make impactful catches on third downs and in the red area because Garrett Nussmeier is starting to figure out, I can throw it places to this guy that defenses can't really deal with. And I thought, as I mentioned right off the bat, the perfect illustration of that is as athletic a 6'1" defender as there is in college football, with speed, with some physicality, had no match for Trey'Dez Green in the end zone today. They're working on throwback screens to him. They're working on middle screens to him. They're working him in the red zone. They're throwing some jump balls to him. That's the one Pickett got in the way of. They're going to start featuring Trey'Dez Green. And it is going to be a huge, huge piece to this offense. Again, not 1,000 yards worth, but touchdown plays, money plays on third down. Trey'Dez Green is going to be a huge, huge problem for people to deal with this year. And again, I wanted to immediately highlight that out of today's show before we got into the rest of practice. I got injury reports. I've got 11 on 11 stuff. I've got some special teams we can talk about. I saw a lot at practice today, but nothing to me was as impactful as standing there watching Trey'Dez Green. And this is going to be a little bit of hyperbole, so don't take it literally, but in this vein, those couple of plays felt like Malik Neighbors a little bit leading up to 2023, where I was watching Malik Neighbors high point balls in the end zone and just moss defenders just dominate with Jaden Daniels. And you saw the result of that in 2023 was just dominance. And I think there are going to be times where Trey'Dez Green is dominant this year in his sophomore season at LSU. So that's my first thought today. That's our Genesis opening drive here on this Monday. We'll come back and talk about the rest of things that we saw at LSU's practice today. We'll have Saints in 15 minutes. They were on the field in a game against not San Diego. It would be Los Angeles yesterday afternoon. I watched all of that. So we'll talk about that when we at 1:30. More LSU football when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Captives are a big, big thing over at Highland Insurance Group. If you've never checked in on a captive and are not sure what a captive is, you've heard the term, but like, do we fit? I'm not really sure if my company, if that works. Well, call Jonathan Carbo and his team at the Highland Insurance Group or check them out at HighlandIG.com. Say, hey, I heard Hunt talking about captives. I haven't really touched on that with my current broker. Is that something that y'all can discuss with me? They'd be happy to. You got to pay a sizable amount in insurance, and you've got to be a fit in terms of your risk management and your risk. But if you do fit, it could be a game changer to your business's bottom line in a completely different way to handle insurance expenses. Not every broker has access to captives. Not every broker fully understands captives. At the Highland Insurance Group, they handle them every single day. Jonathan and I have spoken about them in depth. He believes they're the future of insurance. So do I. And in many ways, they're the present. So if you're a sizable company, you spend a lot on insurance, and you'd like to look at another option because those renewals just keep climbing and climbing and climbing, and you just want to find a way to help your bottom line, a captive may be the answer. Check out the Highland Insurance Group. They're here in Baton Rouge. They can help you statewide. It's the Highland Insurance Group online at HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Back here on the Hunt Palmer Show on this Monday. Beck, how was your last weekend as a parent, as a childless person? Did you sleep till noon?
No, I didn't actually.
Did you sleep till 10?
Nope.
9?
Nope.
8?
Yeah, probably about 7:30 or 8, I think.
8 o'clock? Good.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Because next Saturday, you might still be in the hospital next Saturday. You won't be in the hospital.
No, probably. Well, yeah, probably.
Saturday you may.
Probably still will be, actually.
Be there on Saturday. So you can potentially sleep a little bit.
Yeah.
And the following Saturday, probably not going to sleep till 8.
Yeah. Probably
ready?
not.
You ready for that? Mentally prepped?
I mean, ready as I'll ever be.
Keller just about 6:15 every morning just starts screaming.
Yeah.
And then we don't go in there until like 6:45. Sometimes he screams for 30 minutes.
It's impressive. It really is impressive.
Supposed to tell him to work it out.
Yeah.
You'll work it out.
We will.
Let's talk some football. LSU back on the practice field today. I want to do a health checkup first. That's obviously the most important thing. I will be honest with you. I spoke to some folks in the media, not in LSU, who watched Saturday's practice and thought, that didn't look awesome. Like everyone basically wrote in their reports and said in their podcasts and everything, like he was out there, had the sleeve on, and he was okay. And I think that's generally correct. But I talked to some people after that fact that said, he's clearly dealing with something. And that's like not the end of the world. And it's okay to say that. And I think no one's like covering anything up at this point. But I was anxious because I did not go to Saturday's practice. I went and had a remote at River Parishes Community College, which, by the way, was awesome. I wanted to see him today and kind of give my assertion of where he is in terms of dealing with that tendonitis. He had the sleeve back on today, not a brace, but like a sleeve to stabilize. And he was quite mobile today in the 11-on-11, which, again, no one had shoulder pads on, so nobody was tackling anybody anywhere today. He took off and ran once. He looked completely fine today. I would submit, this is my guess, after hearing Brian Kelly talk and hearing Joe Sloan talk and watching him today, this is my guess. He does have some soreness in his ankle. It probably doesn't feel awesome all the time, but he can go out there for an hour and a half with the understanding that no one's going to hit him and get his work in. And hopefully with the treatment they've got over there and the vigilance that they'll have in getting him ready for the first game, he will be just fine. But he's not like pain-free out there. He's working through it and is okay to practice fully. And I think if they needed to give him a day off here or there, they certainly could. But he does have something going on with that knee. Now, he was out there, practiced fully today. Aaron Anderson today was out there, full speed, going through the team drills. He looks to be pretty healthy to me. Barian Brown got quote-unquote hurt today. I wouldn't use that word. He fielded a punt on the run. It was a shorter punt, and he fielded it and made the catch on the run and finished the run out. He actually ran right past me. And I didn't realize this, but I was told by two people, including Matt, after practice. He, after that, was a little bit gimpy, and they took him to the side, retaped his ankle, and he went back in, so no big deal. It wasn't even a big enough deal to keep him out of practice the rest of the day, so I wouldn't think that was too big an issue. Jakeem Jackson, it was an issue today. I believe he was stretching his hamstring. He was right next to me. He was riding the bike, and he was going through some like light calisthenics, some like light high knees. So, he's probably something with the hamstring. They're keeping it loose, keeping it warm, but he's not out there participating. That's really the only guy who was off to the side today. Everybody else was a full go. So that's good news for LSU. That's the health part of it. I know that on Saturday, drops were a big deal for the LSU pass catchers. You saw a number of drops, and that's certainly never anything you want to see. But today I was paying attention to that. In the indoor session, when the defense wasn't out there, it was just they're throwing on air the route tree. The ball only hit the ground once, and I would estimate probably 35 or 40 balls were thrown in that period. So that was good. Obviously, going against defense, you don't want no defense. You don't want the ball to hit the ground, but it didn't. And drops were not a significant issue today. I mentioned Trey'Dez Green in the top. We did a whole segment on him. But the other guy who really stood out on the offensive side today was Davion Thomas. He was making every catch all over the place. A lot of balls in the middle of the field that he was making nice plays on. He's a guy that I don't have a huge role for in the offense. Me personally right here, I look at Chris Hilton, who I think is the number one. Aaron Anderson's 1A. Those two guys are your top two right now. And then I look at a group that includes Barian Brown and Kyle Parker and Nick Anderson right there. And then you've got another group that's next that I think that you're probably looking at Davion Thomas at the top of, that includes Destin Hill and the freshman wide receivers. But I think that's probably where he is right now. They're going to use him in the backfield to catch the ball a little bit, but they did get him the ball down the field a good bit today, and he really had a nice job. He is just proof that LSU has really good depth at wide receiver, an insanely high floor at wide receiver, and they're going to be just fine and really, really good at that position. DJ Pickett did not allow a single catch in the indoor period of 7-on-7, 11-on-11, and 1-on-1. You hear that and you go, oh, that's incredible. And it is. I think it's great. I will tell you, he is really physical to the point where it looks like pass interference to me, like pretty flagrantly. And for those portions of practice, there wasn't an official out there. Sometimes they do have an official for 11-on-11. They will actually throw a flag and you'll know that the official called it. That wasn't the case inside. It looks like kind of flagrant pass interference to me, but I'll take it as this. This is the way that I'm going to look at it in July. I guess it's August now. I would say he's in position. He's not afraid to be physical, and he's breaking the passes up. That to me is a good start. If it's pass interference, well, he'll adjust to that. He'll learn about that. But he was involved and he was knocking some balls away. That was a really good thing to see. They spent an entire period today on screen passes, and I loved watching it because they're creative, they're versatile. They are throwing middle screens to tight ends. They're throwing tunnel screens into the middle of the field with the wide receivers. They're doing jet sweep play actions and then throwback passes into that screen. They're throwing the ball to the tight end, to the running back, to the wide receivers. And to me, this is a great period for LSU to work on because I think LSU needs to be a good screen team this year. Why do I say that? Number one, they've got incredible skill position players who just need the ball. Get them the ball out there on the perimeter and let the offensive line try to go block for them and create a big play. Like, you've got dudes that can turn it up the field. Barian Brown, Chris Hilton, Xavion Thomas. Those guys can take the ball and get up the field. We've seen it with Aaron Anderson as well. And I like the possession screens that could really get 4, 8, 12, 15 yards to Trades Green, to Bauer Sharp. And certainly you want to get the ball out to the running backs. And I want to give a hat tip to the running backs today. Caden Durham, no drops, looks really comfortable catching the ball. We know Harlem Berry looks incredibly comfortable catching the ball. He did a great job in the passing game today. And Caleb Jackson actually made a nice one-handed catch when we were in the indoor facility as well. He looked good catching the ball. I didn't chart a single drop by the running backs today. So that was encouraging. And the other piece to that, when you've got all those playmakers and you want to create all that space, you want to get the ball out quickly and all that, that's all awesome. It also helps your offensive line. And if your offensive line has some trouble with pass blocking, if you're adept in the screen game and you can keep teams from pinning their ears back and coming after your quarterback, because they've got to be cognizant that if they get too aggressive up the field and you dump it over their heads and you get your offensive line out in front and you've got those type of dudes with the ball in their hand in space, it can be a touchdown like that. And so that's a good message for LSU to send early in the season. If you find out at Clemson that you're struggling to block them in the interior and they're coming after Nuss, work some screens in. And you can't just have like 2 of them. I watched the screen period today. LSU probably ran 7 different screens. I loved it. And at the end of that period, Joe Sloan looked at the whole group and goes, love that period, great period, and started clapping to the guys. It was good. And I think LSU's got to be good at that. There's a lot of misdirection, a lot of different ball handling, getting the ball out quickly. I love the screen period today a ton. And then I wanted to go to the 2-minute offense that kind of finished things off for me today before I bounced out and left. Matt wrap things up with the 11-on-11. If you'd like to read more about this, you can over at LouisianaSports.net. There's a whole practice report up for free there. But the 2-minute offense I thought was good. Nussmeier piloted a nice drive in the 2-minute. He checked the ball down to Caden Durham early. I liked a really good play to Bauer Sharp over the middle. Sharp made a diving catch right near the mark for the first down. Nobody really knew if it was first down or not. The chain gang doesn't have a real chain. They have a line of scrimmage and a 10-yard mark, and they didn't really know if it was a first down or not, and that kind of ticked off Joe Sloan and Brian Kelly, who yelled at the chain gang to get it in gear because they were indecisive about whether or not it was a first down. That gave me a chuckle. But it was close to a first down. We'll call it a first down. Then they got it to about the 30-yard line, and Nussmeier threw a fade route to Barian Brown down the right sideline. He made a great sliding catch on the right sideline midway through the end zone. I thought he was out of bounds. It looked like he was. It doesn't matter. It was a great catch and a great throw over the top. If it was a foot out of bounds, 3 inches out of bounds, or inbounds, either way, really good throw and catch. And it was good to see Barian Brown do that after the gimpy ankle situation. But that was a really good throw, and the whole offense just ran down there and mobbed Brown for a touchdown. They got a big kick out of that. So very, very good play by the offense. And I thought a good 2-minute drill from those guys. LSU should be pretty good in the 2-minute drill this year with the amount of weapons and a fifth-year quarterback. It looked pretty good efficiently today. Couple of notes on personnel. We did see Paul Mabenga play some left guard as well as DJ Chester, so those guys are rotating in and out. Did see Devon Keys with the ones at linebacker in place of West Weeks. He was out there with Witt and Harold Perkins. We saw on the defensive tackle front with the starters, it was Bernard Gooden and Jacobian Guillory today. And also, Mansour Delane was opposite PJ Woodland and DJ Pickett and Ashton Sams. All of them rotated through with the ones with Delane on the other side. Apparently, Delane had an awesome day with 2 interceptions back on Saturday. So to me, a continuation of some really good effort, some really good intensity, even though the pads weren't popping today. They weren't on. But I also really liked LSU's the ability of both teams to throw punches. The offense and the defense are both doing some really good things day in and day out, and I like the balance that we've seen thus far. So that's my look at practice today. You can go back and check out our report at LouisianaSports.net. When we come back, let's shift gears to the Saints. They were on the field yesterday. I was at church yesterday. Saw a dad and a young daughter, probably younger than Keller, who's 5 months, in Saints gear. I think South Louisiana's ready to watch the Hoodats, and they were on display yesterday. I'll give you my thoughts next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Every car that's on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. America's best warranty. That's what they're calling it. A powertrain warranty, 10 years, 100,000 miles. How about their new vehicle warranty? 5 years, 60,000 miles, bumper to bumper. That's industry leading. Talking about an enhanced 24/7 roadside assistant. That's 5 years, unlimited miles. You need help on the side of the road, you can get that help because you're a Genesis driver. And of course, your complimentary scheduled maintenance that can be valet. 3 years, 36,000 miles. Nobody wants to sit on the service aisle all morning long. You don't have to. If you're a Genesis driver, you just have them come pick it up. They service your vehicle, bring it back to you. You give them the loaner back, and you don't miss a beat. It's part of being that Genesis driver. It's a luxury brand at a reasonable price. They're on Airline at PQ. You can find the entire inventory online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Saints and Chargers yesterday from SoFi out in SoCal. Final score 27-13. Who really cares about that? Nobody does. I gave you a lot of things that I was looking for on Friday, and I was excited to sit down and watch the Saints, and I watched almost every snap. We had a 3.5-year-old who got a little bit cranky early in the fourth quarter, had to go outside and throw the football a little bit. So I can't say I saw every snap, but I saw a lot of snaps, okay? And I will give you my thoughts. And the first one is in lockstep with what I said on Friday. I said, look, you're trying to establish a running game, and you know Kamara's not going to play, so you're going to get to see some young running backs, some inexperienced running backs, some new running backs, and you've got 2 quarterbacks that you're going to get substantial looks to, and they need to be able to function in the offense. So for both of those evaluations to take place properly, the Saints offensive line needs to dominate. I didn't know at that point how many Charger starters would start. I didn't know how long they would play. I just know that at some point they're not going to be out there, and I figured the Saints starting offensive line would be out there in some capacity. Okay, dominate the point of attack, and let's try to get some things going offensively. That didn't happen. The Saints offensive line stunk yesterday. Now, I know you had 2 injuries. I know McCoy didn't play. I know there are some extenuating circumstances, but on the whole, largely with Ruiz out there, with Banks out there, with Fuaga out there, started with Penning out there, it was bad. They did not run the ball at all. They ran it 20 times for 61 yards. The long on the day was 11 from Spencer Rattler. The longest run from a Saints running back was 8 yards. That's poor. And I thought Spencer Rattler was kind of running for his life. Like I did not think Spencer Rattler had a good opportunity to sit in the pocket and try to get the ball down the field. I thought some of the times he got the ball out and there was some nice rhythm to check the ball down, and that's why you complete 7 passes for 53 yards. But I did not think that Spencer Rattler had time to operate the offense the way that Kellen Moore would like him to operate it. And that, to me, is so disappointing when you consider that you had some starters out there and the Chargers did go to some backup defensive linemen. So that was a huge problem. And it makes it more difficult to evaluate the quarterbacks, which I'll get to in a second. But I have to go back to this. Like, I know your all-pro candidate didn't play in the middle, and you got Penning that's working, and you had the Clapp injury early. Like, there were injuries on the offensive line, and I got it. But, like, that is supposed to be one of the strengths and the foundations of this team moving forward. And if the Saints find out that Penning can't play and you're not very good at right guard either, and Ruiz is not any good, and Banks has his struggles as a rookie, which is almost inevitable at this point, like, you're going to struggle to get anything done on offense because you're not going to be dynamic at quarterback. Like, that's just not going to happen. You're not going to have a Jaden Daniels type impact on a quarterback. You need those guys to be in an advantage spot. And if you can't run the ball, which they didn't yesterday, and you can't protect, which they didn't yesterday, it's just going to be a nightmare. But I thought Rattler was okay. I thought he did okay. He missed one throw on a slant, got the ball behind, but I thought he was okay. He wasn't great. He didn't do anything special. I thought he was okay. And then Shook came out there, and, like, you're going to see the 2 highlights more than anything. The first, the pick 6, which was an awful read and a bad decision. You could just see it. It was one of those rare pick 6s where the ball never leaves the screen. Like, the defense never left the screen. As he released it, you saw the corner was jumping underneath the route, and he picked it, and it was an easy get up and go score. So you're going to see that a lot, and it was bad. But the touchdown pass was very good. It was well thrown. It was the right read. Mason Tipton has been a big play guy for 2 camps in a row. He made a big play, 54-yard touchdown. You like that. But for the most part, outside of those 2 highlights, I thought Shook was decent. I think that's the word I would use. I didn't think he looked flustered or panicked or like that. The interception was a bad read. It wasn't out of panic. And if you go back and look at Tyler Shook at Louisville, you will see panic at times. Just inexplicably bad decisions that you just can't have. And I didn't see any of that yesterday. I saw a guy that was in command. I saw a guy that was fairly decisive, and I saw a guy that threw a nice ball. Again, he had to run for his life a little bit. He had no running game to help him either, but I thought he was okay. Moving on to the rest of the team, Kendre Miller got 6 carries, had a long of 8. I thought he looked pretty good on the 8-yard run. I thought he looked pretty explosive. I liked some of the things I saw from him. And then on defense, obviously you got a great rush there from Christian Boyd to force what looked like a safety. Turned out he was at the 1-yard line. I thought that was the right call, but a very good rush there. I thought that Danny Stutzman looked really good. I was stunned when I saw the stat sheet after the game. He only had 3 tackles. I feel like I noticed all 3 of the tackles. And he's a little bit more athletic than I gave him credit for. I felt like in Oklahoma, I studied him in Oklahoma. They played LSU, and I was covering that game, and I studied that. He looked just like a kind of a thumper who was limited athletically. He looks a little quicker on that NFL field. The game moves faster, and I like the way that he looked there. Jalen Ford, I thought, had a nice game. And then, of course, Isaiah Stallbird led LSU led the Saints in tackles with 8. Had a great tackle for loss where he was full speed coming downhill. That's a guy that I like him at linebacker, and they need some linebacker depth to step forward, and that looked pretty good. I thought the secondary was borderline great. Like, Trey Lance didn't really have anywhere to throw the ball. He was running the whole game, and I thought the Saints did a good job of covering, and I wanted to see that in the game yesterday. So there was some good. There was some not good. I'm more so disheartened by the offensive line play than I am encouraged by any of that stuff that I said. Because even some of the guys I'm talking about there, you talk about Stutzman, speak to, Christian Boyd, Mason Tipton. These guys that I'm mentioning don't feel like they're going to be huge impact guys. the guys they put out there on the offensive line are huge impact guys who have to play better. So that leaves a bitter taste from that game. But look, the Chargers are a quality defense with good defensive coaching. They were the best scoring defense in the NFL last year. Probably a good start for the Saints here to get those guys first. And hopefully they get more playing time and show some more production moving forward. I need that offensive line to gel together and to be better. They got to stay out of the training room. They've got to stay healthy, and we'll kind of see what happens moving forward with some of those guys. But they got to do a better job of blocking, because if that falters, the rest of this feels pretty insignificant, because you're not going to run the ball, can't protect the passer, you're not going to be able to complete passes, you're going to turn the ball over, and you're going to lose a ton of games. If they can't block better than what you saw last night, it's big trouble. So those young quarterbacks need help, and right now they didn't get it in the game on Sunday night. So that's your Saints talk for today. May get back into it a little bit in the second hour. If you're looking for Saints coverage, Ross Jackson's doing an amazing job on LouisianaSports.net. All of it's free. He's out there in Southern California with the Saints right now. If you're looking for my Saints coverage, Hunt on Saints, wherever you find your podcasts. Like, subscribe, rate, and review Hunt on Saints, all your Saints needs. All right, we'll step aside. When we come back, let's talk some tendonitis. Jeremy Burnham is next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Closing out hour number one, as we do every other Monday. It's time for Sports Health, presented by Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Welcome in Dr. Jeremy Burnham. He's the medical director of sports medicine at Ochsner, section and head of orthopedic surgery. Dr. Burnham, how are you?
I'm doing great, Hunt. Thanks for having me. It's a great afternoon. Football's getting closer and closer, so I think it's a good time of the year.
It is ever so close at this point, just less than 3 weeks away. Tendonitis, kind of the word of the weekend here in Baton Rouge, and obviously we won't talk specifics, but I want to speak in generalities about tendonitis, because when I think tendonitis, I think like a 48-year-old golfer whose elbow's barking at him when he's on the 13th tee. You're obviously an expert in the matter. What can you tell us about tendonitis in general?
Well, I mean, I think you bring up a good point. Tendonitis is probably a little more common, or we'll think of it as being more common in adults as you get older. You start getting these aches and pains. A lot of times you get told it's tendonitis, but tendonitis or tendon issues also occur in young athletes too, especially at high levels. If you think about what you're putting yourself through as a professional athlete, collegiate athlete, or a high-level athlete, it's a lot of demand on your tendon. And tendonitis usually occurs whenever there's repetitive motion to a specific tendon over and over time. And so your body is always in a balance between breaking itself down and building itself back up. It's a homeostasis. And so for some reason, when you get tendonitis or tendon issues, it's usually because the balance is out of whack. And so that recurrent activity just never gave your body a chance to catch up.
Is it anything structural generally, or more so just inflammation and a little bit of discomfort?
You know, a lot of times it starts off, that's a great question. It starts off with something I tell patients a lot of times it's like a micro tear. So there may be some tears in there that you wouldn't see if you got an MRI. Maybe you would just see some inflammation. But if you really were to get in there with a magnifying glass, you would find these microscopic tears. And so that's where it starts. Now, sometimes it develops over the course of a year or 2 years. It will turn into a more structural problem. And so I think that probably 80 to 90% of these tendon issues are treated effectively with a very specific type of physical therapy and other types of non-surgical means. But there are occasionally a small group of patients that need to have surgery to repair that structural defect. There's also something called PRP, and you'll see that utilized a lot in sports. And PRP is where you take your own blood and you draw out the growth factors and you concentrate those and you inject those back into the tendon. And that's a common treatment for tendon issues as well, because you're just trying to jumpstart the body's process and start healing that tendon again.
I mean, I would imagine rest is probably the best deal, but that may not be doable for someone who's trying to play in a football season. So is it just consistent, constant care and therapy that kind of can alleviate? Is that what you're kind of looking at?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think if you're in season, it's a little bit different than if you have the flexibility of being able to take a break. However, I still, for my patients, don't ask them to completely rest. There's actually a type of exercise called isometric exercise, which is where you're flexing the muscle and holding it in a specific position. And that's actually the best thing that you can do. So if you have tendonitis of the knee, just straighten your knee out, flexing that quad muscle and holding that for 30 seconds at a time with or without weights, whatever you can tolerate, like on a knee extension machine. And that will actually a lot of times trigger that tendon to start regenerating itself. But you do a lot of times need to try to back down from the level of activity that you were at before. Now, if you're an in-season athlete and you don't have any structural problems, then I think that it is completely normal to kind of work through there. You're just trying to control the symptoms, and you know that it may take a little bit longer to get ready. If you have the flexibility to dial it back some, then oftentimes that's advised. But like I said, you really want to be proactive about doing the right types of exercises to get it better as well.
This is every case is different. I understand when I ask you questions like these, but just for your expert opinion, like, is this something that generally lingers, or is it something that improves?
I think if you catch it early, I find that patients can turn the corner pretty quick. I think if there's something that's been going on for several months or a year or two, and it's just not responding to all these different treatments, but I think when it gets noted and gets addressed and you're doing all the right types of things, that people actually get better and it doesn't necessarily have to linger. And so I always tell people the prognosis is very positive for this. If you hit it from all directions and you catch it and you know what's going on, then you can totally get this thing better and have it not bother you in the future.
I know that high school football practices are cranking up. The season is just around the corner for those folks as well. No matter if you're a high school athlete or an adult, if you're looking for a place to go, I know Elite is awesome. Tell us what's new over there at Elite.
Well, I think, from the timing with the sports coming up, we just did our sideline summer school skills competency. And so our athletic trainers within Ochsner, they led a class last Friday afternoon for all of our docs, our PAs, our physical therapists, other athletic trainers, where we worked on things like spine boarding. If that instance ever came up, we talked about things like heat exhaustion, about how to recognize concussion. And so really just doing a refresher course for anybody that's going to be on the sidelines. We have 20 to 25 athletic trainers throughout the region that are keeping all the kids safe out there. Speaking of tendonitis, we have direct access for physical therapy now. You can go to doctors.ochsner.org, and you can actually just click the physical therapy specialty. And so if you think you have tendonitis and you don't want to get a doctor's appointment for it, you can actually schedule directly with the physical therapist if you want to. So there's multiple modalities to get that checked out and get treated.
Dr. Burnham, that's awesome. We appreciate the time. We'll talk in a couple of weeks. We'll have real football, and by that point.
That's right. Talk to you soon, huh? Thank you.
That's Dr. Jeremy Burnham with Ochsner. Look, at Ochsner, they do so many things. Such a great resource here for our community in Baton Rouge at the Andrews Orthopedic and Sports Medicine Institute. They know that sports injuries can be unpredictable, but the situation you can protect yourself from is heat illness. It's still the middle of summer, and heat illness is something that we see all the time. Some key signs to look for include excessive sweating, dry mouth, dizziness, fast heart rate, or change in mental status. Feel any of these symptoms, stop physical activity immediately. Find a place to cool off and replenish fluids if you can. To learn more about sports injury prevention and treatment, visit ochsner.org/BRortho. Look, I think that was great information from Dr. Burnham. Obviously, we can't speak to specifics here, and none of us know the significance of Garrett Nussmeier's injury. We know that it's been reported by LSU that it's tendonitis. That's not us speculating on that at all. Brian Kelly talking about it. We know, we go out to practice, we're reporting directly that Garrett Nussmeier is out there. He's got a sleeve on his knee. And he's going through drills. And I don't think it's irresponsible at all for us to kind of talk about what that could be like. And Dr. Burnham specializes in knees, among other things. And so he can't speak to that direct case and wouldn't even if he could. But it's something that LSU has caught early, because I was at practice last week and Garrett Nussmeier didn't have a sleeve on his knee. So this is not something that's been lingering for a long time directly. Something happened in practice. He went down. As Brian Kelly said, it peed off his knee. Like, it was not good. But he's going to be able to continue to practice, which he has Saturday and today. And do I think he's 100%? No. Do I think that's probably a little bit annoying as he gets ready for his final year? Yeah. Was I concerned talking to some people on Saturday about whether or not the injury or the illness or the situation was not great? Yeah. Do I feel better today being there firsthand watching practice? Yeah. Garrett Nussmeier did not miss one rep today. Went through every rep, full speed, and even once took off and run. There was a point, this is widely reported, not anything that's sourced at all, those that were practice. Chris Marlowe, who wrote it in our practice report, you can listen to any podcast for practice on Saturday. He did go down on the sideline on Saturday at one point and really was gimpy going back to the huddle. That may be something that's part of this early portion. But hopefully they can continue to treat it with physical therapy, continue to do whatever it is that they're going to do, and his knee will continue to improve as he moves forward. Because make no mistake, they need that guy in a big, big way, obviously. That's it for hour number one here on this Monday. We'll pause for Sports International headlines. Still got to meet the freshmen, talk a little bit more Saints, and Blake Baker met with the media. All of it next on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. They can do a full-scale bathroom renovation if that's something you'd like to do. Maybe you refinanced 3-4 years ago. You love your interest rate. You're not going anywhere. But house is aging a little bit. Things just don't look quite the way they once did. You want a renovation, but you don't want to move. Well, that's easy. David Duvall and his team can do it. They can do it start to finish. You don't have to call 4 different contractors to get it done. You make one call to one contractor, One Bath and Closets. They're licensed, they're bonded, they're insured, and David's been doing this for better than 3 decades. He can help you transform your bathroom into something customized and bring it to life. Check out the website, OneBathAndClosets.com. See pictures of their great work. Get that free consultation and start your process today. It's David Duvall and One Bath and Closets. You can find them online and get that free consultation at OneBathAndClosets.com.